we've been talking about Kevin Love, and the consensus among fans or those who are visceral about the game last night will say, well, they don't need Kevin Love. There's no way that that's going to be the case. He's going to start and he's going to get the minutes that he always has. Am I correct?
Well, my guess is you're right about the second half. I I would think that if he's cleared, how do you not play him? He's a terrific player. I had a former NBA player tell me last night, and not one of the guys that I work with on our shows, but somebody else tell me that he's a tough matchup for the Cavs against Golden State because, of course, we know how Golden State plays. They do so many things so well. And he said, but if you leave Richard Jefferson as the starter, a little better matchup, and then it gives you some real firepower coming off the bench, which obviously, if Kevin comes off the bench, which the Cavaliers didn't have last night, Tiki, they didn't score a bench point until the fourth quarter.
It was amazing. It was all the starters.
It was weird, wasn't it?
But here's the thing. When I think about a sixth man, and maybe I'm just skewed because I never played this sports. I don't understand the inside of it like I do football. But I think of like Jamal Crawford, right? Jamal Crawford comes off the bench. He's a great scorer, but he's also a leader in a sense, right? He can help those other reserve players be in the right places. I don't see Kevin Love as that. You know what I mean? So the value of him coming off the bench may be, yeah, he can score against the second units, but is it really the right value for him?
In this situation, who knows? He played really well in Game 1, where he had 17 points and 13 rebounds.
Yep.
And then in Game 2, of course, he was injured, had 5 points when he went out early in the third quarter. So who knows where his game would have gone? Obviously, the Cavs had trouble. I would think only because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That let's see, we won with 30 with RJ in the starting lineup. Bench didn't score. Let's see if we can roll with this and see if it works. Or, Tiki, you do just what you said. Put Kevin back in there, and if you see a little issue, you make the switch.
Yeah.
And then you bring Kevin off the bench and get some firepower coming off the bench. Either way, these guys are going to be all on board because all of a sudden it's a much more interesting series, and it can get real interesting if the Cavs win on Friday.
Yeah, we're talking to Jeff Phelps, Cavaliers Studio Host here. What's the psyche of Kevin Love? You see him closer than most of us who are just watching on television or hearing commentary about it. What's his psyche? Like, would he accept being in that role that we're talking about coming off the bench, or would it be disruptive?
I think the Kevin that we've seen here, Tiki, would do anything that it takes to help the team win a championship. And I know that sounds, cliche and the typical answer, except keep in mind what he's done to come here to win a championship. He was the man in Minnesota, putting up big numbers, and obviously came here knowing he would not be the man and would not be putting up those same big numbers. And he's been polarizing for everybody in our town too. And every time it comes up, we kind of all go back to what Chris Bosh said in Miami, that it's not easy being in this situation.
Yeah, I remember that.
Where you're the third guy. I mean, clearly it was LeBron and Wade in Miami, and clearly here it's LeBron followed by Kyrie and Kevin, depending on the night, which guy is the guy. And most of the time it's been Kyrie. His scoring average has been higher. But Kevin not only accepted it, he signed a he signed a new contract to stay.
Yeah.
Knowing that was the situation.
Yeah.
So he's bought in completely, Tiki. And whatever I think it takes to win a championship, I think he'd do because he's already done it.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. He's signed till he's 30, which is 4 more seasons from now.
Right.
Which is not something you do if you're thinking about, let's see how this plays out and I may leave. You see the other side of this equation, the Golden State Warriors, and I would posit that they just had an off night. They got a lot of the same looks. Defensive scheme wasn't materially different. Maybe the Cavs worked a little bit harder, wanted a little bit more. That's what happens when you have home court. But from the other side, this was an anomaly for the Golden State Warriors.
It was last night. It reminded me of a couple of the games in the Oklahoma series that they had against Oklahoma City where the Thunder just drilled them. I think Oklahoma City had a 133-point game in one of their wins. And all that said, look what happened. Golden State went out and won 3 straight games to win that series. And when the Thunder went up 3-1, we were talking about it on our show, and I said, You don't think Golden State can go win 2 games at home and then sneak out 1 on the road? Of
Yeah,
course they can.
of course.
They can come back in that situation. And the same thing with our team here, because only 3 teams have ever been down 0-2 and come back to win the finals. Well, you don't think a team with LeBron James can pull that off? When LeBron, and we talked about it on our show in 2007, the Cavs were nothing. They were up and coming, and they were down 0-2 to the Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they won 4 straight games. And that's the game. That's the time when LeBron had the stretch where he had 25 straight points in a game, had huge games against the Pistons, and they won with Sasha Pavlovich starting at 2 guard.
Yeah, wow.
If you know where Sasha is right now, you're a better man than I am.
Yeah, he sounds Eastern European or Russian. Maybe he's back over there playing in one of those leagues.
Maybe he is, or maybe he's spending his money. I don't know. But this team has a lot more talent. Now you're going up against Golden State, and this Golden State team is better even than those Pistons teams were, back then. And those Pistons teams were really good.
Yeah.
But it was the same concept, where the Pistons had Ben Wallace and Richard Hamilton and a team. They were playing as a team, and that's what the Cavaliers have to do if they want to win a couple more games in this series and maybe pull it off.
Yeah, you're right. Studio host for the Cleveland Cavaliers, Jeff Phelps, joins us here on CBS Sports Radio. Back to this decision with Kevin Love. Who do you think actually makes it? Will it be Ty Lue, or will this be, because we've heard this, that LeBron is kind of running things over there and kind of behind the scenes a little bit, just giving some nudges here and there. Who ultimately makes this call on Kevin Love? Is it LeBron or is it Ty?
No question, Tyronn Lue. It's that simple. No question. LeBron certainly has all-star players do. I'm sure his voice is heard, and I'm sure Carmelo's voice is heard in New York.
Yeah,
but there's no question Tyronn Lue makes the call on what they do there.
I would think you're right, because I know that we've liked to position LeBron as the end-all, be-all. He's the king. He transcends even coach-player type relationships. But at the end of the day, everybody has to buy into one thing. And if a player is doing that, you can get a little bit askew. What happened in the positive with Kyrie Irving? Because it seemed like in game 1 and 2, took a lot of shots, didn't have a lot of assists, but it was almost like he was kind of guessing. I'm hoping this is going to go in. Was it as simple as just being home gave him the confidence to jack up the shots that he did and really have them fall?
Tiki, I think there's a little more to it than that even. And the home court is, clearly helps.
Yeah.
That clearly helps. He was really aggressive last night, and he came out trying to set a little tone for what was going to happen, and he did. He had 16 points in the first quarter. And when he's on, man, he's as good as any point guard in the NBA.
Yeah. And
when he's on, he allows LeBron to do so much more. Because how can you focus on LeBron when you get this guy going for 16 in the first quarter?
Yeah.
I mean that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then when you get Kevin in there, and last night RJ was doing a good job in Kevin's place, and Tristan Thompson hitting the boards. That's the Cavs team that we've seen all season long. And LeBron was the leading scorer last night, but we've heard coach after coach come into Quicken Loans Arena, and when they're asked about LeBron, they've said, and numerous guys have said this, if your best shot is probably to let him score 40 and not be a facilitator, because he's so good when he's doing his all-around game, and maybe the Cavs are a little easier to beat if you worry about everybody else and let LeBron do his thing, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, no.
Because if he's averaging close to a triple-double in the playoffs, and last night didn't have the assist total that he usually has, was still second on the team in assists, had 32 points. But those two guys had to take over last night, Tiki, and they did.
Yeah, no, I think that's what we've all been calling for. And it seems like, and you listen to LeBron, he's like, well, I'm not a pure shooter. I rebound a little bit. I do some assists. Like he almost gives him, not want to say gives himself an out, because I think he truly is humble in that way. But could he? Well, let me put it this way. Let me phrase the question this way. If they want to win, doesn't he have to be more like he was last night than how he's been in some of these other series and even the first 2 games?
Last night he had to be. Throughout the earlier rounds of the playoffs, and of course the earlier rounds of the playoffs did not go up against the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
But in the earlier rounds of the playoffs, Kyrie had 20 or more points in all but 2 playoff games, and one of the ones he didn't, he had 19. Kevin had 8 double doubles in the first 8 playoff games. They were getting the all around effort, and LeBron was, I won't say able to step back on anything, Tiki, but he didn't have to go have that 45-point game, that 40-point game. Last night he pretty much needed to have a big game, but so did Kyrie, and they both did. And chatting about it yesterday, everybody kind of agreed here. All right, if RJ plays, if Kevin plays, whatever happens, what really has to happen is LeBron and Kyrie need to step it up, and they did. So, if LeBron has to, everybody said, oh, he's getting old and he's not the same player and blah, 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 blah. He looked pretty darn young on that dunk on the alley-oop from Kyrie, didn't he?
Yeah, he really did. He reached back for that one, too. That wasn't an easy
Oh,
one.
my goodness.
It wasn't easy one.